For our class on Wednesday, we'll look at Islamic architecture and Islamic culture in the context of the question, what was modernism? In other words, how does a traditional culture react to modernism? And so we got to define modernism. So let's say that I'm going to begin modernism with the Renaissance. And of course, there are lots of places to begin it, with the Enlightenment, with the mid to late 1700s. But let's go back a bit to the Renaissance, and we'll take as our example Leonardo da Vinci, and we think of the brilliant observations he made of nature, of anatomy, of plants, of animals, and so the observation of nature. We'll take that as step one. Next, the understanding of nature. So we begin with observation, and we observe, you drop something, it falls, gravity. So that's an observation. But what's going on here? And eventually, and we'll take as our representative Isaac Newton. Of course, there are thousands of figures for each one of these steps. And Newton seeks to explain gravity, to understand nature. And so there becomes the observation that things fall at an accelerating rate of 32 feet per second squared, and that every body attracts every other body with a force proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the distance between them. So now we are understanding the mechanisms of nature. And next we'll take James Watt in the late 1700s, early 1800s. He contributed to the development of the steam engine. So now we harness and control nature. Not only do we understand what it's doing, but we can control it, turn it to our purposes, make steam engines, etc. And then something happens in the late 1700s, and that becomes the application of the above to humans. So we think of figures like Hobbes and Rousseau, and we call it the Enlightenment, and we have as examples of it the American Declaration of Independence and Constitution. So now we are taking the observation of nature, the understanding of nature, the control of nature, and observing that, well, maybe humans are in some way natural creatures, and we can apply all this to human beings. We see an acceleration of that notion in the 1800s. So we can start with Charles Darwin, and his theory of evolution puts forward, well, actually, evolution was long observed, so Darwin contributes a theory that evolution is driven by natural selection. But now we're saying that human beings are natural animals. Today we observe that we share 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees and 20% of our DNA with yeast. So we human beings are a part of this natural continuum. Karl Marx, through scientific socialism, says not only can we understand society, the dynamics of the class struggle, etc., but we can see the class struggle as a driver of history, so we can understand and take control of human history, just the way in the Industrial Revolution we took control of nature. And then Sigmund Freud applies all of this to the individual human psyche, and our motivations are not lofty the betterment of all of humankind, the achievement of beauty, but rather the human psyche is mechanistic. There are drives, sexual urges. We repress those drives through civilization, and the energy has to be expressed somehow, so it is released through sublimation, whereby we build cultures, businesses, art, etc. So that the achievements of the human race are not something lofty, but merely an outcome of basic mechanistic drives that are just like the other forces of nature. And we can never overcome them, but we can at least control and subdue them to have reasonably happy lives. So, now we encounter these explanations of human nature clashing with traditional cultures. And so, to take one example, you might have a fundamentalist of some religion, and their children are in school, and school tells their children that human beings are not the creation of the Creator, but rather are natural creatures that arrived here through the accidents of mutations and natural selections and might just as well have not happened. Some people might object to that. So let's talk about this in class, in our coming class.